Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to Wholehearted Living with Valerie.
And Benny.
Woohoo. We're here. We're back.
We're back.
And the Dodgers, I have no idea what's going on.
I think it's still 0-0, right? Is it still 0-0, Iggy?
Yeah.
So, we just gave away the fact that we're in the same.
That's why I was just going to say the Dodgers, I don't know. Did they win or lose? Are we out of the game? Are we out of the... And you're just like right back
I ran right into the trap. Sorry, folks. We're doing 2 podcasts in one night, which is pretty typical of us. So we're still watching the Dodger game from last week. So you guys are like, duh,
so
they've already won.
I know.
But we don't know that yet.
Yeah.
At least we're hoping they won. Okay. Well, how are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. I think I showed you the video earlier with the boy I work with who
That's
did
cool.
all. Okay, so you guys, I work with a first grader who has autism, and today was chalk day at school, and he drew.
But you might need to describe what that is for people like me, because I have no idea what chalk day is.
Oh, there was like an extra recess at the very, very tail end of the day, and we brought out tons of chalk, big, huge sidewalk chalk. It's like that really thick chalk.
Right.
And then they all just drew pictures all over the blacktop. And so he drew a few pictures, and the next thing you know, he started drawing circles. And I thought, I just thought he was drawing circles.
I thought one of them looked like a basketball at first.
Yeah,
or something like that.
And it was like in a round, it was almost like a rainbow looking thing. And then all of a sudden it looked like there was a Saturn. And so I was like, what are you making? And he goes, the planets. And I was like, oh. So I walked him back over to the first one. You know, I'm like, what's this? And he's like, sun. What's this? Mercury. It's the smallest planet. And then he went down the whole line of all the planets in order. And then I said at the very end of it, like, oh, well, where's Pluto? Pluto is not a planet anymore.
Showed her.
But no, I knew there wasn't. I was just kidding with him. But it was just I'm just looking at him like, because it's just very hard to get him to say a lot. Yeah. And it's very hard to keep him focused. And it's just,
yeah, it's really cool. That's very, very fun, because you could tell that he was excited about it in the video.
So excited, and just so so smart, because like you said, you go, I don't even know if I can name all the planets, let alone in order.
There's no way. And I didn't know Pluto. I didn't know Pluto wasn't one. I thought Pluto was the dog. Isn't Pluto a dog on a TV show?
It's from Disney, by the way, but I don't know. I guess they had a TV show at one time. Hi, Iggy.
Iggy's here.
Hello.
Iggy's very sad.
We didn't thank Iggy last episode. Oh, Iggy, can you put it in there? Thank you, Iggy, for doing such a great job. And you could cut that and put it inside there. Keeping us in sound, and thank you for being here today.
Iggy's half in and half out because he's doing all his stuff at the same time watching his phone.
For the Dodger game. So, I wanted to tell you something that I'm blanking out on right now, because we started talking about the planets. And but it was a great little story, and it changed my life.
So
I wanted to talk about the fact that I'm very bummed out. So for those of you that don't know, in Southern California, it's very difficult to find parking anywhere in the world. And we had this wonderful blessing of having a bank near our house, and everybody would just park at the bank. And it made it really easy. And we do not have the largest house in the world, but we have people over a lot, and we'll have 20 people over this little house.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been here many times when we've had 20 people, right?
Yeah.
And so
I think in the parking's defense, you guys live in a townhouse with probably how many units
24.
are there? 24 units. So if everybody has 2 cars, that's a lot of cars to.
Well, the 2 cars is fine, because then they can park in the townhome.
Yeah,
but the problem is that most of them don't have just 2 cars, and then we live amongst a lot of people that have
townhomes,
a lot of different townhomes and apartments, and probably not everybody for sure has multiple parking spots.
Right, and for some reason on your street, you have a lot of red.
We have a lot of red.
It's a very, very small
I think the reason why they do the
park.
red is because that's where they put the big trash cans, and they have to, because otherwise if they don't, they have no place to put the trash cans for the people.
Yeah, so there's very limited parking.
But they could always park at the bank. And last week, Iggy was walking our dog, doing us a favor. He and my daughter were walking the dog, because we actually were Valerie's watching the game, and Iggy's car got towed from the thing.
Which thankfully, I was telling you guys because you were at our house and you were telling us the story as Patty got off the phone with him. I was like, well, thankfully he left because I thought you were leaving. I didn't realize you guys were walking the dog.
I didn't either.
But I was like, thankfully they did that at that time because had they gone out after the tow yard was closed, like if you didn't walk out till they would have had to pay another day of
storage.
Fees. Yeah, storage.
Yeah. So that's huge. I mean, don't get me wrong. It wasn't a cheap thing. Sorry, Iggy.
No, it wasn't a cheap thing.
Yeah. But what it means is no one's ever going to be parking at the bank ananymore. So Valerie parked in New Mexico. Right. So she had to get she parked her car and then took an Uber to our house.
I was like, wow, I should have started my watch for my walking time. I got my steps in.
Yeah. So I'm a little sad because we do parties at our house and I'm like, I don't know what we're going to do. But anyway, what we might try to do if we have people over, Patty, we just have to go find a good parking space and take it and then let two people at least park here.
That's what I was telling Benny when I got up this morning. I told Peter, I said, I'm going to text Benny and see if he can move one of his cars to find a spot out front.
Yeah.
And then I could take it when I get back or park in here and then we'll swap when I leave. And I totally forgot to do that.
Yeah. Well, it is what it is. Hey, by the way, we forgot to tell you, I think, who we are. So, I mean, we are siblings. We do this podcast. We tell people, we try to find subject matters that are going to be super helpful to your life, but we also want it to be fun and entertaining, make you laugh, and or hopefully it does that too. So
if you guys are watching, you guys can tell already that it's a really funny show because Benny is funny looking.
Oh my God. That is just not nice. You have to know that that's where it comes from because I like to say I'm funny and my wife one day goes looking
and it's never let him live it down.
Never. And so I go, I'm funny. And she goes, looking. Now Trinity does it probably more than my wife. I think my wife is even bored of it.
I know.
She only every once in a while does it. We still make each other laugh. I don't know. Do you guys laugh a lot in your relationship?
100%.
100%?
No.
You never don't laugh?
I didn't say 100% of the time. I said we make each other laugh. No, I'm not that funny.
No.
Peter is actually really funny, but he's nonstop funny.
Yeah.
So the thing is like sometimes you're just like, okay, I'm so over you being funny. Can you just be serious for a minute? Do you know what I mean?
I'll think it's funny. And that's why I say I'm funny because she's not laughing and I'm reminding her that I'm funny.
That's what Peter says. That's funny. And I go, it really wasn't that funny because it's like, how do you decipher what's funny anymore? You never talk seriously.
Yeah. Well,
but
I do
when
talk
I make
seriously,
a funny, because sometimes I can make a really good funny.
Yeah.
And then when he laughs and giggles, I'm like, oh my God, I made it funny. And then I have to try to remember and tell
That's
people.
He does the same thing. She like journals it.
Exactly. You gotta like, yes, you gotta document it. Yeah.
Mom does that.
I know.
Every time she makes it funny, she's like, oh my gosh, that was funny. Yeah. No, I make funnies all the time.
We do make each other laugh.
I think we laugh.
Do you know when I'm the funniest, to be honest?
You know what? I'm the funniest?
Do you know when I'm the funniest?
When? Okay.
Well, not so much anymore. I've gotten in a really good habit of
this story just went downhill. Just forget about that. Just tell us when you're funny.
When we go to bed, like for some reason, I'm so loopy. I will be so funny and I will just like, and Peter is like just getting into bed, like just like, oh my God, there she goes, there she goes, and I'm like giggling and I can't stop laughing about something and then I'll say something funny and then he's just like, oh my God, go to sleep. You know?
That's so funny. Now, you know what's funny is that when we were first married, that's when Patty would talk. I would talk to her about life or ask her things or whatever because I'm very talkative.
Yeah.
And shut up. And she would and we would talk and then she would and she would kind of go whatever and then she'd lay down when I'm ready to go to bed. I mean, I go to bed for one reason. I'm going to go to bed. Well, there's other reasons too. Dun. See, I'm funny. But anyway, I would
laugh at your own jokes and no one else laughs then.
You did laugh. You were laughing. We have it on video. So I would go to bed thinking, okay, it's time to go to bed. And then all of a sudden she'd go, you know what happened at work today? And I'm like, I don't care anymore.
All day long, I've been asking you.
Yeah, so we've been talking. Or you know what this, and you know what this, and you know this.
It kind of reminds me of a kid when your kids were little, like they'd get home from school. How was school? Fine. What did you do today? Nothing. Do you have homework? Little bit. Oh, Okay, well, I'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
And then you're suddenly, it's time for bed. And then they want to tell you everything that happened in the day.
Yeah. Well, I can't remember little kids anymore, but yeah. No, but I think you're right. I think the thing with Patty that's interesting, and I think it was her mother that told me this, and then I started thinking about it, and I thought, I wonder if it's true. I think Patty liked the fact that the lights were off and the attention was off her, and then she could talk. She felt like there was less pressure, for lack of a better word, because there's like no, like even if I was looking at her, she really didn't know because it was dark. And so,
wow, that's a very interesting.
Yeah, that's not even the subject matter for today.
No, but that's very insightful, because I wonder if that does have any.
Oh, I think it does, because I've used that many times with other people, since then in couples counseling and stuff. So, because there's.
So do you think like in a confessional in a Catholic church, they're more apt to say confessions because they don't necessarily see somebody there, versus if you were sitting in front of like a pastor telling them your confessions?
For sure.
Oh,
100%.
okay.
No, I think it's definitely true. That's why, and then you could, well, at least in most Catholic, I don't know what it's like anymore, but you could choose if you want to see the person or not.
Oh yeah, you're right. That's true.
You could.
I
So
never
some
did want to
people-
see anybody.
No, I never
Yeah.
did want to see
Yeah.
anybody. I was so young when I used to do that. I don't even remember what I used to say.
Oh, I do. I used to have to lie.
Did you really?
Yeah, I couldn't
Did you
think
tell
of
them
anything.
they were lying so that
no,
you could do?
this sounds
a
so
couple
bad,
Hail
you
Marys
guys. This
about
sounds
that?
so bad. But mom's like, okay, it's time for confession. We have to go to confession. I'm like, what did I do wrong? What do I need confession for? I'm like, I hit my brother.
Did you?
Lied to my mom. I didn't lie to my mom. I didn't hit you.
Oh,
I just had to say it, so I had something to say.
why didn't you say I'm pretty good? That's so funny.
Because mom said you must go to confession and confess your sins. Okay.
Well, nice.
Well, then I had to say 2 Hail Marys,
Yeah.
and then
Well, you should go again and say, hey, by the way, I lied all through
I actually
elementary
said,
school.
if they said say 2 Hail Marys, I remember thinking, okay, I'm going to say a third one because I just lied to them about it.
That's so
Oh
funny.
my God, I know.
Oh my gosh.
That's the trouble of being such a good kid. Like,
Yeah, that you lie.
I didn't have any sin. I'm just kidding.
It's Mary.
Oh,
okay.
boy.
So are you ready for my subject?
Yes. Tell
subject?
me what's going on. Tell me. What's
So
going
I'm
on.
going to bring up a word and I'm going to find out what you think about it. And then we're just going to kind of talk about this word. It's a scientific word, kind of. I don't know if this is scientific or not. But dopamine. What do you know about it?
Is it scientific?
I don't know if I'd call that scientific,
okay.
but do you know what it is?
Dopamine. Like you get like a dopamine rush? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, dopamine is like a good thing.
Yeah.
It's something that happens in your brain that creates pleasure. It creates pleasure. What's the other one? Dopamine and there's another one. Serotonin.
Yes.
Dopamine and serotonin are things that can provide pleasure. Now they both, and this is my point. This is what we're going to talk about today. Ironically, since we always tell people to look at Instagram and YouTube. But we're going to talk about the fact that I wanted to talk a little bit about social media and what social media does to our brains and how it
We
affects
did have
us.
this conversation on the podcast about social media.
Yeah, we talked about social media, but we didn't talk about dopamine.
Dopamine, when you said, what was the word you used? Clinical? What did you say? Chemical? Or what did you say? Dopamine? Scientific. I mean, I guess because it's something that your brain
It's a chemical that your brain produces.
but it couldn't be produced without any kind of scientific. I guess what I'm saying is like you can get dopamine from going for a run.
Oh, for
You can
sure.
do- Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, go for it.
Yeah. So dopamine is potentially a very good thing. And quite frankly, but see, I guess where I wanted to go with this thing is in one of the things that I recognize, and I can't remember really where I read this. And so I just did some other studying, but I can't remember why I wanted to talk about it because I couldn't find that thing. Probably because I was doing the very thing that I shouldn't be doing, which is scrolling through Instagram and then I couldn't find it again.
Right.
But here's what I realize is people, me, constantly we're looking for a dopamine hit. That's something that we're constantly looking for. And what has happened for many people, and maybe I'm going to backtrack before I even go down this track. How much time do you spend on social media? do you think?
I can look it up because it tells you, but I do know that I've tried to spend less time, and I'm very excited because I get a weekly text that tells you that you've spent this much less percentage on your phone than
You get a text, or you just get that little thing?
A little notification.
Yeah,
that's your
notification.
weekly notification.
Yeah,
you spent this whatever percentage less than you did last week, and I'm like, every time I get that, I'm like, good. So it keeps going down.
Yeah.
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 But I don't know for sure offhand how much time I spend.
Do you find yourself on it a lot though? Just whatever. I think the biggest time when I use it, this is going to be so funny, and I bet you everybody relates to this, is when I'm on the pot.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. I think I take it in there and it's just like, but I try really hard not to, unless Peter's watching something that I honestly don't want to watch, then I'll pick up my phone. But I also don't have time during the day much to do that. And then at like 7 p.m. ish, I go and put my phone in the back room. And
oh my gosh, do you really?
Yeah.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
I actually might start doing something like that.
Because it can get addicting to just scroll.
Well, this is my problem. This is why I'm bringing it up, because I will be watching a show that I want to watch with Patty, and then I just pick up my phone and start scrolling. And it's stupid. I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this?
Right.
Why do I need to do this? And I know it, and I stop. I put restrictions on it. But the stupid thing says, do you want to stop? Or do you want 15 more minutes? Or do you want to limit? And I'm just like, bypass the limit. And it's like, why don't you put a lock on it that goes, you cannot, you're done, dude. Of course, then I don't know what I would do. I might, try and
break the phone.
Yeah, break the phone to say what's going on.
Well, that seems like it might be a little bit of a problem. But no, because of what you just said is exactly why I just started at a certain time in the night. And it's usually right around 7:00. I will go plug it back in the room, and I don't get back to it. And then by the time I'm going back to bed, it's way too late to want to start scrolling or anything. And so I don't see things till the next day or whatever.
Right.
But to my detriment, because since I don't have a house phone, I'll get a text from Nicole and I won't see it till the next morning at 5 a.m. And then I'm just like, oh my gosh, I hope she didn't need an immediate reply. But because I know Peter always has his phone out and he's not a scroller, he doesn't have social media at all. He will only answer it if it looks like a text for business. I always say, if it's an emergency, call Peter, text Peter, that kind of thing, because he's not a scroller.
I don't have anybody that, I guess my kids, if something bad happened to the kids, we want to know, huh? Shoot. Well, now you screwed me on my whole plan of putting it away now.
No, you have to.
Oh, no, because I still have my watch. So it could still ring to my watch.
True.
It still would ring or do whatever to my watch.
That's a good idea if you don't take your watch off, yeah.
Yeah, which I wouldn't, because I'm not going to, that would be interesting. I wonder if they'll get an app for Instagram that you can scroll your watch.
No, but I take everything off. When I go back and plug my phone in, the watch comes off, the makeup comes off. That's my, okay, now I'm going to.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, no, I probably wouldn't do that. But I guess what I'm getting at is I think we're addicted to, we need dopamine, but like you said, there's good ways to get dopamine. But if your body gets flooded with dopamine, I wrote some stuff down about it. But this is where some people think they have ADHD and maybe they even do, but sometimes what's really just happening is you have to reprogram your body because you've been training it to receive a hit and a hit and a hit and a hit and a hit.
Instant gratification.
And so you're constantly looking for that hit in life. And when you don't get it, you have to do something else. You have to find a way to get the hit. Likewise, the same thing happens. This is why it still fascinates me. And I know in podcasts from a long time ago, we talked about it. But it fascinates me when you go out to eat with people and then you look at tables and you'll see 4 or 5 people sitting around, especially young people. And it's fascinating to me because they're quote unquote enjoying life together, but they're all on their phone. Every single one of them is on their phone.
Yeah.
I can't remember what restaurant. There was a restaurant that said they don't accept phones. You have to put your phones in a bag.
Basket.
Yeah, or something
I saw
like that.
Or heard of that. Yeah.
And they just don't allow you to have your phone during that whole time. And I just thought, that is really cool because it kind of takes the pressure off of the parents from saying you got to give up your phone or whatever. It's like, no, you're not allowed to have it in the restaurant.
Right.
It's a great way also if you're going on a date to say, I'm going to be here with you. It's like we're both going to be connected. I think that when we play games as a family, I think we're pretty good about not being on the phone. Every once in a while, you could kind of tell when people start getting bored because they start connecting to their phone and start doing stuff.
I like to take pictures
right.
of like what we're doing. So that's might be why I pick up a phone. You know what I mean? Let's get a picture. Whatever. But even then, I don't post it right away. Like I'll just take it and save it, and then later, like if I want to post it, it goes up later. I don't take the time to do it.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty good about taking pictures too, and I'm also very good when I'm with family about not using the phone. And I mean, like it's usually not even with me. And then what I'll do is I'll go, oh, I want to take a picture of this, and I take it. I don't do it really for Instagram. I do it because I do a digital journal. I just like to remember it. So, but it's just interesting for me because I just think that there's a lot of people in terms of wholehearted living, and we're really robbing ourselves of real joy when we are constantly taking these micro dopamine hits, and we're doing it over and over and over again. And one of the things that it's interesting is what in my reading, and this is also to do with addiction, because this is how people get addicted to drugs as well. I'm not saying that if you're doing social media, you're automatically going to get addicted to drugs. But what's interesting is that dopamine hit is taking place when we take a drug or when we do certain kinds of a certain amount of alcohol and certain amount of things. And what ends up happening is we get addicted to that feeling. And then what's really interesting is we start to get immune to it. So we need more of it and more of it and more of it. And we keep doing it. And the only way to really get rid of it is you have to kind of go on a fast. You really just have to cut it out of your life and allow your brain to like reset to get a normal, because what might happen is your brain stops producing dopamine when you take the walk, because the only way it'll do it now is when you're on.
Well, and I think this whole topic, I think we talked about this before, I'm not sure, but I think that's a lot of reasons. There's a lot more behaviors in school, because I really do believe that there's so many kids on social media or just playing games or whatever, and there's just that instant gratification. It's instant. They're getting everything. You know, you no longer, even to do homework, you no longer have to stand up and walk over, open a book, look up a word in a dictionary, or grab an encyclopedia. Like you just have it instantly at your fingertips. Yeah. And so what happens is now you're sitting down with these kids at school, and you're trying to play a board game, or you're trying to play something that takes time, and they can't sit. They're going and going and going. You're like, and I really do think it's a detriment, because you're exactly right that they're getting that hit every single time when it's so instant, when you have to slowly wait for that dopamine to realize this is a fun board game, or this is fun playing, tetherball or whatever. It's like, it's not quite as exciting anymore, because because it
doesn't give you that hit. And then I can get the same feeling by just going over there and looking at it. I mean, I was fascinated to find out what a big industry it is to record yourself playing games on YouTube, and people watch other people playing games. And I'm thinking, now we don't even play the games. We watch other people play the games. And I'm like, I don't even understand. I can't. That blows my mind.
I know.
That nowadays you could get a hit from that. Now, there's ridiculous things that I do that probably people think, how do you get a hit from that? But what I guess what I'm saying is, for us to live wholeheartedly, we have to figure out, how can we get these hits from natural, more, previously conventional ways of living? Because when we're living in that, I think that's when we experience a much more wholehearted life, because otherwise we're living in this fantasy world of scrolling, of images. And my focus wasn't just about social media. My focus was about this dopamine, this constant desire to get a hit. Honestly, for me, I get a little dopamine hit from eating. I always bring this up. I get a little dopamine hit from from eating. I get it from certain kinds of conversations. I get it from there's certain things. And then there's other things that I'm just completely bored to death about. But one of the things I absolutely love to do, and this is what's freaky about it, is I love to be with my wife. I really love to be with my wife. But it's fascinating to me how I could even be doing the very thing that I absolutely love. And then she'll turn and say, stop looking at your phone.
Yeah.
And it's like, I almost don't even realize I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
I've
done that for sure. And that's why I've decided to start putting my phone back, because Peter will look at me and go, now what are you looking at? Or what are you doing? You know, and it's like, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I'm not bothering him because now he's watching something that I don't care to really watch right now.
Right.
But yeah, I'm
a dork because there's times when I'm looking at it and I don't care about what I'm looking, but then all of a sudden I see something I really like, and then I push pause, and Patty's like, seriously, you're gonna pause it so you could see the thing on the because I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. I really like certain, like when I get these quotes or different things that people say that are really cool. But again, it's just a quick dopamine hit. Yeah. It's like, why am I doing this? But you know
what's really interesting, and I think I brought this up on one of the podcasts, which the depression rate of students in high school, I think this was a long time ago that I brought this up, and the studies they felt like they were in this depressed state, and it was because when for example, let's just say a parent got mad and took the phone away or their iPad or whatever it is. So now they're not getting that instant dopamine hit, and they're not getting fed this, like you just said, everything's like coming to their faces. Now they feel a lull. Now they feel like they're missing out because they don't know what their friends are doing, because they're watching social media to see what their friends are doing and who's seeing this and who's doing what and who's putting their makeup on like this and who's, and it's like now they can't see that, and they're suddenly in this depressed state, and the rate of depression has gone up so much because of social media. And so it just goes to show maybe they're really not depressed. Maybe they just don't know how to fulfill their own happiness by just being with themselves.
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
I do. I used to say something horrible to my kids that now I look back on and I go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I used to say this. Because if our kids ever said they go, I'm bored, I would say, well, you're boring then.
Yeah.
Because my idea was, find something to do.
Right.
Play with a box, write something, draw something, do something.
Yeah.
You can find something to do. We have things to do.
Yeah.
So it's like, but I would always say, well, then you're boring then, which I don't like ever stating that somebody is that way. But the idea was figure out something. I mean, when we were growing up, we got on the bike, I went to the Hartleys and we figured something out. Mm-hmm. We put something on fire and we get in trouble. but the point is that we tried to do something. Nowadays, kids, well, I don't know if they probably would always say they're boring. And at the same time, they're just looking at this thing over. Mm-hmm. And again, this is for me, not about social media. Social media is a part of it. The real thing is that I'm trying to get at is the fact that dopamine is something that we need, that we live by. It's something that's helpful to us. It's sex. You get dopamine hits from sex. You get it from, there's a lot of things that we do that we get a natural hit of dopamine. But what's interesting is if we are getting it from negative areas as well, it'll affect the natural areas. Mm-hmm. The next thing you know, you're not getting the same satisfaction out of those other things that you found satisfying.
Absolutely.
And so then you have to figure out, what am I going to do to keep it going and keep it going and keep it going. And what I've recognized, and ironically, I've been, but for me, I definitely have to cut off what I do. What I find myself nowadays, like during the day, I rarely use it. I rarely look at it. Probably the biggest one is when I'm sitting on the pot. Mm-hmm. And it's like, and now what I've tried to do for years, and I have done this at times and not, but I try to read or do something else, which, because in the old days, you remember?
Yeah, you just
every bathroom had a book in there. Every bathroom had a magazine or book, because they all knew that nobody just wants to sit there and stare into space. Yeah. And so it's like they did something like that. Isn't this pleasant that we're talking about this? And but the point is that we don't need to do that anymore. Mm-hmm. Everybody just carries their phone everywhere. And the next thing you know, you're constantly feeding the machine, and we don't learn how to get a natural hit. Mm-hmm. And we're affecting the natural hits because we're getting them in a way that's really not that natural.
And I feel like a lot of good quality sleep is at bay because you're constantly feeding your brain that stuff. And it's,
For sure.
yeah.
What
are the things that you wrote though? I'm kind of curious.
I really, the things that I wrote don't have to, so dopamine is crucial for the coordination of movement. It's involved in transmitting signals. See, this is why I say dopamine affects your memory. Dopamine is, reinforces learning by rewarding the brain when new skills are learned. So like this is a great way to get dopamine is learning a new skill. It actually, that's going to be something, but see, that will feel differently than a dopamine hit from something quick.
Yeah.
So, cause that's going to take some time, but you are going to feel it. Yes. I know what's interesting is sometimes I have a hard time getting into some of my readings cause they're very intense. Mm-hmm. As soon as I'm 5-10 minutes into it, I'm like engrossed in it. I'm really into it. And I'm like, okay, I really like this. And I want to keep reading it. And I want to keep reading it. And when I'm done, I actually feel good. I don't feel guilty. I don't feel, for lack of better, I don't want to say dirty because it's not like what I'm doing is necessarily dirty. It's just that it's not, I feel like, was that really the best use of my time?
Yeah. Like when you're scrolling, like after
exactly.
a while, you're like,
yeah. And it reinforces really good habits. It reinforces adapting behaviors. It affects your mood. It's a mood regulator. Healthy dopamine levels contribute to feelings of pleasure, satisfactions, well-being. It's often called the feel-good neurotransmitter. But the cons of dopamine are addiction and risky behavior. High levels of dopamine can lead to addictive behaviors as people seek the high that comes from rewarding experience, whether it's drugs, gambling, or even social media. This can lead to dependence and loss of self-control. Overstimulation, now here's the thing where you were just talking about, and anxiety. When we get flooded with dopamine, excess dopamine, we get overstimulated. It causes restlessness. That's your sleeping thing. It causes anxiety. It can cause manic behavior. And in certain cases, bipolar disorder or even bipolar behavior. See, this is the problem. A lot of people start diagnosing themselves as being bipolar or being a certain way. And really, that's not it. They just need to do some behavioral changes and they probably would go back to normal. But they think they're that way because they're feeding themselves and not feeding physically, but you know what I mean. Conditions like schizophrenia, ADHD, Parkinson's are linked to imbalances in dopamine. Too much dopamine in certain brain areas can lead to hallucinations, and while too little can cause problems like Parkinson's. So I have a bunch of stuff written like that. So, but you can see that dopamine is majorly affects us in what we, in our behavior, in our mood, in everything. And I think what I like to do sometimes when I'm coaching people and or doing therapy is let them understand what's happening in the brain. Because if you can all of a sudden understand what's happening in the brain, you might be able to say, oh, wait a minute, this is why I'm doing this. There's literally a chemical reaction that's causing me to do this.
Exactly, yeah.
And so if I can stop that right now or change it, this is going to perhaps change my behavior. Still requires a great deal of self-control, willpower, and probably something to replace it. I would encourage, like whatever it might be that you can do to, like, put the phone away. Because asking yourself to
have it there and not touch it, it might be too
it's
hard.
The same thing as me. And, I can't say I'm going to be better about eating cookies and then just put them on my end table.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to lose.
Right. You're going to grab a cookie.
I'm going to grab a cookie. I wish. I totally wish it was just a cookie. So anyway, do you have anything more to say about dopamine?
No, but I like that because I think that I think that's so relatable to so many people today. Because I think it's just somebody, once you feel it and you want it and you don't have that, you almost feel like, for lack of a better word, boring. You're bored.
Yeah.
And it's a shame, because it's a shame that would be where the dopamine would come from.
Right.
Because you'd like to say, okay, swap it for something else. You want to pick up your phone and scroll? Why don't you go for a walk? You know,
Yeah.
I know we always throw that out there. We're just like a broken record with that. But
there's mindfulness exercises.
Yeah.
You can breathe. You know, we use nowadays this fitness app, and for Apple, if you have that, I'm sure there's other ones, but they have mindfulness activities on there, and you could, but meditation. Prayer for those of you that are prayer people. But the idea is slow the brain down.
Slow it down. Get it naturally. And let it be there or not, because sometimes you just don't need it, because you do need to calm down. You need to relax. You do need to fall asleep have a good quality sleep. You know,
while dopamine really feels good, that little hit, it also feels good to relax and chill. And so a lot of times the anxiety that you might be feeling, the depression, even, you know, it doesn't mention, well, I don't know if it did or not, because I didn't read everything again and I forgot, because a lot of this is what I wrote down a long time ago. But what's interesting about depression is that sometimes when we get flooded with that thing, it makes us go into fight or flight mode. It makes us go into that mode. And when we go into that mode, that could really bring us down, especially if there's nothing to be frightened of. And so we invent that thing. And that thing might be, my friends don't like me, I'm not good enough, and the next thing you know, we're spiraling and we're starting to go down. So the idea of calming the mind down and chilling out is just a huge thing that could be incredibly helpful to wholehearted living.
Yep.
Yeah, it really can make an impact. So
for sure.
Well, that was my subject.
Well, that was nice. Thank you.
That was different, wasn't it?
Yeah. No, it was good.
Yeah. Good. Dopamine.
All right. On that note,
Iggy, thank you so much for keeping us sound. What's the score?
2-1 Yankees.
Oh.
Well, let's talk a little bit longer until
What
it's
inning?
at least 2-2. No, I'm kidding. What inning is it?
Middle of the 6th. Dodgers scored a run on a sac fly, bottom of the 5th, then top of the 6th. Yankees hit a 2-run homer.
Okay.
All
Well,
right. Well, this is all old news to you people that are listening to this.
Yeah.
But,
by the time you listen, the World Series might even be over.
Yeah.
It's not over for us, though. But
Well, thank you for that subject, Benny. That was good.
yeah,
We
well, good.
appreciate
Thank you. All right, folks. We're at wholehearted_living_podcast on Instagram, but don't look at it. I'm kidding.
Every week I say, I'm going to be better about posting.
Yeah.
But I know. See, maybe I should scroll there.
Oh, jeez. And you can
Then
find
I'd be
us
able
on YouTube, too. Just Wholehearted Living, Valerie and Benny. And I guess that's it. Is that all I have to say?
That is all. And
Okay.
we will chat with you later. Bye.
Ciao.